So, today's episode of our podcast, Take a Seat, is a really special one. We're celebrating International Women's Day and we're delighted to welcome our guest, Dr. Rebecca Wade. Rebecca is based at Abertay University, where she's been a driving force in engineering, geography, and community focused research for over 2 decades. Her work is a brilliant example of how engineering can be placemaking, shaping healthier, greener communities by connecting people with nature, from urban green spaces to rural river restoration projects. She's played a key role in Abertay's Athena Swan journey, helping champion gender equality in academia and STEM, and she's deeply passionate about why International Women's Day and International Women in Engineering Day really matter, not just as celebrations, but as moments for reflection and action. Rebecca's career has taken her from river systems in the US to climate-focused community projects here in Scotland, and even as far as Antarctica, where she took part in the Homeward Bound voyage, supporting women leaders in science, tackling global challenges. This conversation is about leadership, place, people, and the power of women shaping the future. And we can't think of a better way to mark International Women's Day. So, Rebecca, take a seat.
Thank you very much, Alison.
Welcome.
Thanks. It's lovely to be here.
So, I talked a little bit in the introduction there about Athena Swan. So tell us more about that.
So over the last 10 to 15 years, maybe a bit longer, an organisation called Advance HE, so that's Advanced Higher Education, has really been working hard to help institutions like mine, like Abertay University, to make sure that we're as equal and inclusive as possible. And they've run a number of different charter marks.
Okay.
And so there's the Race Equality Charter, the Gender Equality Charter Mark. And these are the processes that we've been able to engage with that have allowed us to basically take a long, hard look at where we are, how fair, how equal, how inclusive are we being? You know, where are the areas that we're doing well and where are the areas that we could improve? So over many years, Abertay's worked within these charter marks to try and basically take a long, hard look at ourselves and figure out how we could do better. And it's been a really instructive and informative process. And I would say that many institutions across the UK and indeed across the world have engaged with these kind of processes. And it's enlightening because only when you really do that hard, long look at yourself do you actually maybe get some of the honest feedback from people and understand how processes or even just the physical environment of your organisation could be better. It might be related to childcare, it might be related to flexible hours, it might be related to actual estates and facilities. It could be to do with work culture. You know, there's all sorts of different aspects. So Abertay's been involved in that, those systems, those charter marks for a long time. And in fact, there's a bit of a change that's coming forward for a few institutions and for Advance HE, which is a new inclusivity framework for institutions. So whereas the Gender Equality Charter Mark and the Race Equality Charter Mark really tackled specific issues, there was always the understanding that they were intersectional.
Yeah.
So that, you know, one had a lot to do with the other, there were overlaps. And so this new inclusivity framework is actually maybe a more holistic approach, which allows organisations to think about all those intersectional issues that sometimes, you know, when you're improving, let's say for gender equality, you could also be doing that to improve race equality or inclusion and equality and diversity in other ways.
And does that then have an impact on the academics and who's teaching in classes? And then presumably that has an impact on the students who are encouraged to kind of study some subjects, because there's imbalances everywhere, really, isn't there, in terms of some of that?
Yeah, so it allows us to look at, you know, what staff do we have? What tasks do they do? What pay grades are they on? Is there inequality of opportunities for things like networking and going to conferences? Do some people have more of a load for some tasks than others? You know, and it allows you to take that overview and to sort of do a check on your equality. And I think in relation to sort of who's in the classroom, for subjects where there's gender inequality in the workforce, it can sometimes be a real challenge to get a gender equal sort of teaching staff or lecturing staff because they're not necessarily well represented in the workforce generally. So I teach in engineering and environmental management. And, you know, I've had situations during my career where I've been the only woman in an engineering classroom, and I'm at the front, and I'm not a trained engineer. You know, I contribute to our engineering teaching, but my background's in environment and geography, as you've already alluded to. So that can be quite challenging because, you know, you have to have a level of, you know, capacity and confidence to be able to you know, deliver meaningfully when you know that, you know, you don't necessarily feel represented in the room in front of you.
Yeah, tell us about International Women's Day from an Abertay perspective, or how it kind of is in your world, and then we can talk about Women in Engineering Day.
Oh yes, of course, yeah. So, well, International Women's Day wasn't around when I was born, but it was first recognised by the United Nations in 1977. So I'm giving something away there. And so it's been around for a long time. So I guess in a couple of years' time, that'll be its 50th anniversary. It's half century of International Women's Day. And a lot of people ask me, you know, why isn't there a, you know, a Men's Day? Well, there is actually, you know, it's towards the end of the year. And the reason for International Women's Day was really to try and put a spotlight on inequalities that existed at the time. It was not long after the Gender Equality Pay Act, you know, here in the UK was first initiated, and there was still a lot of inequality. So I've always tried to take the opportunity to highlight it within my organisation and to join in the organisational effort. So Abertay University, along with many other institutions, try and recognise some of these key UN days so that they can highlight issues and highlight good work that's going on, and seeing role models and seeing people that are doing things can really help inspire others to come into those roles. So we've led all sorts of initiatives on International Women's Day. We have a female principal at Abertay University, Professor Liz Bacon, and quite a number of our executive team are also women, and our heads of department are also women. So in our institution and leadership roles, we've got quite a good representation. And last year, Liz led us all, I think it was last year or the year before, Liz led us all up to the top of the Law Hill. So we all had a Women's Day walk up to the top of the Law Hill. We engaged with each other as we were walking and talking. We got out, we got away from the office, we got fresh air, we networked with each other, we related to each other on a very sort of equal basis during that walk, regardless of our position within the organisation. And we highlighted things that we were all going to do. We made little postcards and post-it notes of things that we were all going to do to try and reduce inequalities and to highlight women in our organisation as a result of that.
Yeah, and Women in Engineering Day, just tell me how that kind of makes itself known in the Abertay world.
So International Women in Engineering Day, INWED Day, is the 23rd of June every year. And even before that, on the 11th of February, there's an International Day of Women and Girls in Science and Technology. So we've got a couple of different days after International Women's Day where we can really try and highlight and celebrate. But I'm involved with the Women's Engineering Society, and they initiated this. At first it was a national day for women in engineering, but now it's become an international day for women in engineering. And it's fabulous because, well, the Women's Engineering Society is fabulous because it's a tremendous network for women in a subject that is not, where women are not strongly represented. So if we look at the statistics for engineering, we see that engineering and tech fall behind other sectors in terms of the percentage representation of women compared to men. And even over recent years, so it seems that the Office for National Statistics has been able to show that 27% of core STEM workforce in 2025 was women. And this was an increase compared to 2015, but it had slowed down in engineering and technology. So even over that decade, we saw an increase across science and STEM generally. Engineering and technology didn't keep up with the pace. In fact, they were slowed. So there's a real role for the Women's Engineering Society, for Women in Engineering Day, to try and maintain and keep up that effort to highlight the opportunities for women in engineering, the real need to have women in engineering to make sure that we hear all the diverse voices and make good decisions, because we're hearing all the viewpoints.
And I think some of what you've said sort of is reminding me, because in our podcast series, we've had Pamela Malpass on, who leads One Office Technology. So she was talking about what it feels like to be a woman leading a technology business. And we've had NCR in, who have women, leading the local organisation here in Dundee, but also, they've talked about their work that is trying to encourage more women into engineering within NCR Atleos. So yeah, it's very interesting. And just kind of finishing off our conversation about International Women's Day. So to help the Chamber network look at and kind of hear from women leaders, the Chamber, we started a Leading Ladies programme, which has just been so inspirational. You and your very good friend Fiona were very great to us and came and kind of told us a little bit about your own story and that voyage that you went on. So tell us a bit more about that, and where does the penguin fit in?
So yeah, I'm delighted to share a little bit about that. Thank you. So back in 2019, before we even knew that COVID was a thing, I had applied to an international, a global women's leadership programme. It had a focus on women in STEM, and it also had a focus on sort of improving the climate for the future. So I thought, well, these are two things that I'm really passionate about. This really fits me well. I've been working already on gender equality and on, women in STEM, and I work in sort of climate adaptation and sustainable water management, and these are things that are really close to my heart. So I applied for this programme and I was delighted to be accepted onto it. And so it takes the form of almost like doing Open University. It was sort of night sessions, and we were trying to fix global times that could suit somebody in Beijing and somebody in Brisbane and somebody in Bristol and somebody in Dundee and, all over the world. So we had all these sessions at different times of the day and night that we tried to make sure that we could engage with the other participants from all over the world. We could really take part in meaningful leadership learning. And a lot of that was thinking about ourselves and reflection and how we operate in the world, and trying to understand that a bit better, as well as trying to understand how that might be different for others. And that's where I ended up having a lot of conversations with my friend Fiona Logan at Insights, because those sorts of initiatives, like helping people to work better together by understanding themselves and others better, is really core to what Insights does. It helps us to develop ourselves and our organisations by being more self-aware and more aware of others, and really enhancing all of our strengths, right?
Yeah.
So there was a big delay due to COVID. We couldn't go in 2020 as planned. And when it eventually came around that we could travel in 2023, there was an opportunity for others to join. And so the first person I thought of was Fiona, because I thought I've had so many conversations with her about this leadership programme, about the synergies between Insights and what we were learning in terms of our personal development. And so I'm very glad to say that she was able to secure a place, and we both travelled to Antarctica with a ship full of women in STEM, or with a background in STEM, from all over the world. And we went in November 2023, and we sailed across the dreaded Drake Passage, which was a bit hairy at times, all the way down to the Antarctic Peninsula, South Shetland Islands, and to the mainland itself. We were able to have some amazing experiences and learn from each other. We had a sort of a conference at sea where we learned about each other's backgrounds. And I took another companion with me as well, Alison. And I took Emma Penguin.
So you're not a Dundonian, you don't really know Emma Penguin.
Yeah, so Emma Penguin is all of the RRS Discovery mascot. That's what Emma is. She's an RRS Discovery mascot. And all of the mascots for the Discovery are called Emma. And there is a real link to the Dundee dialect, as you well know. which I suppose if I was putting it in a different context, I could say, I'm a teacher.
True.
Or you might say, I'm a businesswoman. And so Emma Penguin was gifted to me by the lovely folks at Dundee Heritage Trust. And she travelled with us to Antarctica. She even came on some of the voyages when we got off the ship and got onto the little Zodiac boats that could take us closer to shore. And I was really delighted to take her from Dundee to Antarctica. I felt a real affiliation with the idea of going to Antarctica, since I was very familiar with the history of the original discovery, which was built in Dundee and very proudly sits as part of our cultural heritage. But when Robert Falcon Scott, the captain of Discovery, and Ernest Shackleton and many others, when they went on the ship to Antarctica in 1901, there was no question of women going with them. So when we think how far forward we've come in equality and female leadership and female opportunities since then, it's been a tremendous change.
I mean, I remember watching your journey, because obviously you were documenting it and doing vlogging, but yeah, the emotion of it obviously, you know, was something. And I think it was great that then that's recorded so that, you know, you can share that. But I also know how in demand you've been since you came back, just to kind of tell your story. So, and that's really important, isn't it? That we kind of make sure people understand that climate emergency is very real and it's having an impact. And you know, I think that there probably won't be that very many people in the future that will be able to do what you've done.
Well, I mean, that's a really good point that you make, because it also felt like a real privilege to go to Antarctica. It's not a place that everybody gets to go to, and really everybody shouldn't go there. And one of the things that alarmed me, actually, in fact, all of us on the ship, was learning while we were there from the expedition leaders about how many tourists actually go to Antarctica. It's become a booming business. The big cruise companies are all down there taking 1,000 or 2,000 people at a time on a cruise ship into those really quite remote areas. And those areas aren't set up for that. You know, you have to stay on the ship. There are no hotels in Antarctica. It's a place that very few people stay year round, just sort of researchers and research-based employees and technicians and supporters. And when we started to learn about the impact that this increased tourism, and we're talking, you know, more than 40,000 people a year, it's really having an impact. And so Emma came with me and Fiona came with me as well, and we brought back lots of messages, and it's been my privilege to do all of that outreach. I made a promise to myself, because of the carbon footprint that I had incurred and the knowledge that not everybody can go. I said, you know, my giving back, having had this opportunity, will be that commitment to you know, to share my experience and to enhance awareness about climate change and about the impact that we have on the planet.
Well, huge thank you, not only for coming and speaking at our event, but for taking part in our podcast.
You're welcome.
There's lots and lots and lots more I'm sure we could kind of talk about, so we might need to get you back. But yeah, thank you for sharing those insights. And before we end our episode, we have a quick set of questions that we call our key questions, based on our location, obviously. So what's the one piece of advice you wish you knew at the start of your career?
I would say listen to your gut. So usually, you know, deep down inside, you know if something's right for you or if it's not for you. And sometimes, you know, something can feel difficult, and it will be difficult, but you can persevere and you can get through it if it's the right thing for you to do. So I would say listen to your gut and persevere. Because if you do know that something's right for you, don't let it go past you.
And is there one issue that keeps you up at night?
I think it's climate change, to be honest with you. I am really aware of the science and the information that we're getting in terms of where we are now, where we've come from, in terms of our emissions and the impact that's had on our planet. And I'm also really aware of the projections, you know, looking forward. And so that scientific knowledge is quite, you know, concerning, to say the least. But the thing that's even more concerning is that that's now so well accepted and understood, but we're not changing our behaviours, not changing our policies and our practices to really address that challenge. So it's more our collective community and political response that keeps me awake rather than the science of the climate change, because we know what we know and now we need to adapt. We need to change and adapt. So that's the thing that sort of bothers me.
Okay, and if you or your teaching style had a theme song, what would it be?
Well, it's a really difficult question to answer because depending on what I'm teaching and how I'm feeling, I might walk into a room differently on any given day. But I usually like to come in with energy and enthusiasm because I love teaching, I absolutely love it. And I feel like it's a real gift to be able to encourage the next generation and to inspire them to do things. So there is one song that resonates with me. And I'll often sort of listen to it on holiday. So I feel it's like quite a comforting song, but it's uplifting as well. And I wouldn't even call it a song, it's a piece of music. And so the band Sigur Rós, the Scandinavian band, have a piece called Hoppy Pola. And it's really quite, it's sort of gentle but uplifting at the same time. But then a band called Chicane remixed it as more of a dance version. So if I was walking into a classroom with all of my energy, I think I'd be playing Poppy Hola by Chicane, and it would give me just that lift and that bit of kind of enthusiasm and a big smile on my face to do the things that I need to do that day.
Brilliant. Good answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
So a huge thank you again for taking the time to come in and kind of get involved and support our podcast. Your work reminds us that engineering isn't just about infrastructure, it's about people, place and possibility. So Rebecca, thank you.
Thank you very much, Alison.
From championing gender equality through Athena Swan to reimagining communities through nature-based solutions, and even taking that leadership journey all the way to Antarctica, your perspective couldn't be more relevant as we mark International Women's Day. To everyone listening, if today's conversation has shown us anything, it's why supporting women in leadership, science and engineering matters every day, not just the one that's on the calendar. There are still more episodes of Take a Seat to come, so make sure to keep an eye out on our socials for a sneak peek at next week's episode. Thanks.